Hey Misplayers, this is Keith here at Slight Misplay, talking today about a campaign diary for Curse of Strahd, the game I call the Bloodrune Legacy. This is a game that started with a group that we started at my last job and has continued on since I have been parted from that job. It's one of those situations where we started as colleagues doing something after work, started in the office, started moving to people's different houses, and somehow became a game group as well as colleagues and merged into friends. And it's always kind of interesting and weird to try to draw that line and try to figure out when you've actually become friends with people that you either just work with or just share a hobby with. So I think now it's safe to say we're all friends. We still meet every 2 weeks for two different games, actually. So 2 times a week we meet online right now. One that I'm a player in, and this one that I've been DMing since the group started. This is also, let's see. So yeah, this is Curse of Strahd. We're running right now. We're in Argon Volstholt. As always, these are going to be spoiler heavy, so be aware. When last we left our heroes, Yamil, the group cleric, had triggered a trap on the second floor, which caused a magical wall to sever him from the rest of the party. This is why I'm calling this session Severed Heads, Severed Ropes, and Severed Party Members. So he had been cut off from the rest of the party. Phantom Warriors came out from both sides of the hallway, converging on him. He's trying to yell. Everybody's failing their perception checks to hear through the wall what's really going on in there. They know something's going on, something fishy is happening, but they don't know what. He's terrified. I probably threw too many Phantom Warriors at him. I was a little concerned that he might die, and this player has already lost one character in this campaign. We'll get back to that in a little bit because it's kind of hilarious how things kind of circle back around. He did something really cool. I was kind of secretly hoping he was going to do this. There are windows on the second floor corridor of the haunted mansion here. So he flung himself out the window. I think I had him roll last session to see if he could heft himself up in his heavy armor out through the window if he landed on the ground. And he basically landed on the ground, flattened his face in the muddy, rain-soaked grass. He was down to, I think, 1 hit point at that point. I think he cast a quick healing spell on himself. So we started off this session with the party split, at least in that regard, and nobody knew where he was. None of the other party members, the players all knew, but none of the characters knew that he had left that corridor or where he was, which made this next part really interesting because we had a couple of characters that were testing the magical wall, trying to figure out if it was magical, and they rolled horribly to any kind of investigation or arcana check on this to figure out what was going on. So they're just like, I don't know. One of the characters, the party's paladin, Arcus, the paladin of Morgion, the god of secrets and disease, starts tapping at it and hitting at the wall with his sword. Nothing's happening there. Because it's a stone wall, so it just, I think I had him roll an attack roll, and it just was miserable towards what I figured a stone wall's AC would be. Meanwhile, back in this other hallway back over here, this was a little tricky to run because a lot of this was just spooky, atmospheric, haunted house kind of stuff, and so I thought the tone should kind of be low, but at the same time, I kind of like to hit all 3 pillars, combat, exploration, and role-playing throughout every session. I like to hit at least a little bit of everything. I think I put a little pressure on myself, so the beginning of the session seemed like it was dragging a little bit, and I was getting kind of worried. But then Laura, you all know Laura, you saw my last video, or maybe you didn't, but go see my last video. Meet Laura. She is playing Magrathin, who is the head librarian. This is a really cool concept that she came up with. I think it's her first character that she ever actually made from scratch, backstory and everything. I think she worked with some folks that she met online. To really flesh him out. We talked about it a lot, about what he was going to be like. So he's basically this librarian necromancer who comes from the head library. The catch there is that it's not a library of books, it's a library of heads. All different kinds of heads, whether they're undead heads or dead heads or somehow living heads or maybe construct heads. Doesn't really matter. It's just that they collect the wealth of knowledge through these heads. She also has a companion, kind of like a familiar, in the form of a severed head that is on a bird cage in her back. His name is Gary. I patterned him a little bit off of Nathan Fillion's character from Santa Clarita Diet. God rest its soul. I thought he was a great character. We put him in there for a little bit of comedy, but also he's kind of her window into intelligence or arcana checks and gives a kind of a reason for her to be smart or have information. He kind of connects himself back via the interwebs somehow to get information back from his colleagues in the library or reach back into his brain for what his knowledge is. She's searching for heads. So Argyn Volstold, I thought, was a great place for her to be, because there happens to be a head or a missing head in this part of the module. There's a couple of them, actually, and one of them we're going to encounter here. So she goes down the hallway and she starts going through and looking at these alcoves, and she's pretty scared about what might be behind these little curtains. She's using her staff to part the curtains, and first one opens it up and there's nothing there. It's like, okay. So she keeps going. There's another one at the other end of the hall, and she parts that one, and she sees that there is a alabaster pedestal with a sheet, some kind of a cloth on top of something, and they don't know what it is. And I'm thinking, this is going to pay off great for her. This is perfect that she went out and did this. Meanwhile, I'm trying to manage what's going on back over here again, because now the wall has subsided. Meanwhile, downstairs, Yamel is making his way back into the ground floor of Argyn Volstold, and people are hearing kind of strange noises. And Yamel also runs into, I mean, they knew he was there, but that player, Chris's other character, his previous character, who was killed by being thrown out of a castle to attempt to save him by his barbarian companion after an encounter with the Gibbering Mouther. It's a whole big thing. Everybody was torn up. It was the first player death I've ever had in any of my campaigns, and I've been playing for, I think, 30 years. So I was really torn up about it. He was really cool with it. He rolled up this new character. We have a hook for him to bring this guy back. So basically, they've been Weekend at Bernie's-ing this, his previous character, who was first known as Pater, then became Ghost Pate when he was inhabited by the ghost of a little girl in Barovia. And then the ghosts left her, at some point disappeared, and now they've been carrying around what we've all affectionately called Dead Pate. So they've been, he's kind of hanging out, doing his little Weekend at Bernie's pose on the bottom of the stairs where they left him. He explores a few rooms. I think there were rooms that they had already checked out at the bottom. So he's coming back in over here. As he's coming in over here, Magrathan is up over here looking for whatever's behind this curtain. She finally pulls off the cloth and finds Yamel's severed head. Can't make this stuff up. It's like they give you just such great material here, and if you have backstories already made for characters and have character histories, it's just fuel for the fire. Like there are so many things you can pull from this module to just customize it to whatever's going on. And we'll get back to a couple other things we did there. So meanwhile, while that's all happening, Yamel's making his way back through the bottom floor of Argyn Volstold. Magrathan finds the severed head. Now, she's super excited because, number one, she just joined the campaign. She's just met Yamel. She doesn't even know what he looks like underneath his helmet. And, dead heads, as I say, his head is like all bruised and tongue's lying out, and there's, eyes are drooping and stuff like that. And, unfortunately, I've seen a dead loved one before, and I know that it looks very, very different from a live loved one. So I'm thinking it's pretty plausible that she either just doesn't recognize this guy. However, She uses her mage hand. It's got a little skeletal, ghastly mage hand, comes out, grabs the head, carrying it around like a little server icon from file share days, or like a little waiter, carries it around, and Lyra, the group's werewolf slash wild elf ranger, sees the head and starts flipping out. She has a companion animal. She's a ranger, so she has a mountain lion sidekick that they named after another fallen comrade of theirs. That was a planned party death when a player had to leave the group. His name was Eric. He was a one level bard and a bunch of levels of barbarian, so he was a barbarian, and they named the cat affectionately after him, Erica. So she's there with the cat, and they're freaking out, trying to figure out what's going on. Magrathin's like, "Hey, what? I found a head," and Gary on the back of her birdcage just sitting there saying, "Dude, this is why we have no friends. You got to put that thing away. You can't keep doing this to people. They're all gonna hate us." Gary's great, and he also makes great dad jokes every once in a while. I think he said, I think I had him say a two-head better than one joke at some point. So they're all trying to figure out what's going on with this severed head. Yamel, the players all know, is alive. The characters don't. They're trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And Yamel, I also had to be the character that I kept. I'm not sure if I got this from the module or if I got this from Alpha Stream's site on what spooky things you can do with characters. So he was a character that every time he saw his reflection or every time he saw a tombstone, he would see something to do with him. He would see his body reflected as a deteriorating corpse, or he would see his name on a tombstone or on a coffin or anything like that. So this worked out perfectly for them. Meanwhile, this was a really tough session to run because it was a split party. It was a big, fairly big group. Meanwhile, up over here again, the wall had come down. I figured it was 10 minutes. I just kind of hand waved the time on that to make it more dramatic. Sky, who is a Genasi sorceress, who's kind of I guess the best way to say it is just a bougie bitch, as I think how her player would describe her. And she plays her beautifully for that. She's also pregnant with Sarek's baby. She thinks also it might also be Strahd's baby because she was bitten by Strahd. There was a whole big thing. We'll go back to some of that stuff in another video. So the Arcus and Sky are in this corridor, and they don't see much of note. They're not rolling very well. They don't really know what to look for. They don't see Yamel. They see a broken window, and they know that there's air and cold air and cold air, cold damp air, and raindrops are coming through. So Sky leaves. They had a rope tied around one another. I don't know what the intention was on this because they both went into the room together and then one of them left. Oh, I think she was using the rope to kind of test it. These guys are fairly new D&D players. They don't have the legacy of like the 10-foot pole to poke everything. So I think she was using the rope as kind of a testing the waters kind of scenario. But nothing really happened because there's nothing going on in the middle of the room here. The traps are all on the sides. So Arcus thinks everything. Arcus wants to keep investigating. He wants to look at the window. He wants to look around. Sky's she's bored. So she walks out of the room, and then Arcus immediately puts his token right over here, right on a trap, and the wall springs back up again, and Phantom Warriors come out again. And I forgot to check what Arcus's hit points were, and it was right in front of me on Roll20. It was just showing right there. I should have looked at this. I did take it a little easier this time because I knew it was just one character. I didn't want to do the same thing again. So I had 2 Phantom Warriors come out and attack him. And these guys are pretty brutal. If you're taking a severed party, a split party, and you've only got 1 or 2 guys in that corridor, these guys can really do a lot because they've got 2 attacks each per round. So that's 4 attacks on one guy. Each of them missed once, and each of them hit once, but one of those hits was a crit. So 1 round, bam, Arcus is down. Everybody else is kind of freaking out because they don't want somebody else to die, but they don't know what they can do about this. So Magrathin and the other characters finally decide they're going to start going downstairs and see what the commotion is and see if they can get outside to where they, so they can get up to this window because they think Yamel somehow must still be up here because they've seen his severed head. They want to know what the heck is going on. So they're running down here. This got a little clunky because I kept them in initiative for Arcus, and I probably should have taken them out and just played around with time a little bit to keep things moving a little faster. But as luck would have it, the way that movement worked out, it worked pretty well. Yamel came in through the door. He came in through this way. He came to the party. That he sees another party member, a new party member, holding his head. Super happy about having this new head. Gary's saying the whole time, dude, you gotta put that head away. Like, knock it off. Everybody is freaking out. So there's a little happy reunion with Yamil, and Erica jumps up on him, does a little kitty kiss, does like a homicidal psycho jungle cat thing, and just topples him over. They help him up because he's in his armor and he just got knocked over. There's a big clamor because remember, this is a haunted house. This whole thing seemed very, very Scooby-Doo to me, which I thought was fantastic, and I regretted immediately that I didn't think of that ahead of time and throw in like a Scooby-Doo soundtrack to this. Music I did use for this, I used for Argon Vostal. I'll take a little aside here. I used the Mask of the Phantasm theme for Batman Animated. I use Hunt for Red October. I use some Mozart's Requiem. I like this to have a big orchestral sound to it, almost like a little Russian, Eastern European flavor to it, different than some of the other ones that I use. It's not quite as dark. It's more grand dark than anything else. It's still got that edge to it. I also use a track from Aliens soundtrack, the Atmosphere Station soundtrack, which is really creepy. It's kind of very low, and every once in a while you hear dun 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 as they're exploring, which came in perfectly. I love it when music cues just coincidentally come through because it makes me look amazing. That I've just timed everything perfect, and it makes the whole narrative just come together. And that happened, I think the same track played twice. I don't think people caught that it was the same track, but I know it happened at least twice in that session, that music happened right as somebody was like whipping open a door and looking behind it and seeing what was in that room. So they found Yamil. Meanwhile, Sky has this magic tattoo. She was given this by the Automestai elves as a reward. It's a snake tattoo. Her character is she bases it around, I think it was Princess Jasmine's outfit from the Aladdin movie, or one of those outfits. But basically, she dresses kind of sultry. She's a genasi. So her tattoo, and she loved this when I told this to her, was a winged snake that came up from her foot, winds around her thigh, up across her back and her torso, and then has wings on the back, on her back, as a tattoo. What this does is it lets her once a day for 1 hour cast the fly spell. I think I stole that from another magic item in the DMG, but it was something I wanted to give something that was a little different than just a regular magic item. I had this idea in my head for a long time for my homebrew game that really looking to try to get published on DM's Guild. So, if you want to help me, support me, get that out there, because I've got some really cool ideas for that. Anyways, back to this. So Sky decides she's going to activate her tattoo. She is downstairs at this point, and she decides she's going to activate her tattoo and fly, because her flying speed is 60 feet, so that's double the speed of everybody else. If she dashes every turn, because I kept us in initiative, it's going to be much further than anybody else is going to get there. And so she feels, I think, a little bad because the player of Arcus, Clark, hi Clark, sorry Clark, was kind of being like, you abandoned me. I can't believe you abandoned me. You left me here all alone to die. And he's literally dying, bleeding out. So she flies out through the bottom, and her idea is she's going to fly up to the top, up to the window, and see if she can save Arcus. The timing on this was beautiful. I think Arcus critically failed his first death save. So this is the second session I've had this week where somebody was down by 2 without a single success on a death save. So Sky gets up to the window, looks through, doesn't see any of the Phantom Warriors, just sees the hallway, the wall, and sees Arcus, and she goes over to him and tries to lift him up over her pregnant belly. I forget about this all the time, but I've been also having her pregnancy be a little strange because we're not really sure how it's affected by Barovia. They don't have a good idea on how much time has passed since they've been in Barovia, and they don't know if there's something strange with the pregnancy. So it's a strange situation there, but she's lifting him up. I figured she had enough strength to lift up this armor-clad guy, but not the best. I can't remember if she bound his wounds there, or I think she wanted to bring him outside to heal him first. That created a lot of tension because Arcus was down by 2 death saves. So I had to look really carefully at the initiative order and think, I want to make it so that there's at least a little bit of dramatic effect here and they can save him at the last minute. And I don't want him to die just because somebody else, again, just doesn't understand how the order of things work. I don't think it's fun. It might be fair, but I don't think it's fun. I think also Clark might have been ready for Arcus to die at this point. I talked to him about this afterwards. He mentioned that he was having problems role-playing him. And so I, this time, remembered to whisper to him in the chat and say, hey, do you want to make your roll privately? Do you want to talk about this first? And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll make it privately. I don't think he really cared that much if Arcus died. I don't think he necessarily wanted him to die, but I don't think he would have minded so much if he died. Oh, but the great part here was that Sky was considering throwing Arcus's body out the window down to the ground below. So this all came back home to the previous instance where the party had a fallen member and they thought they were going to save him by throwing his body out of a castle away from harm's way, not realizing that, no, that's going to kill this dude. So it was really, really fun to see everybody kind of look at each other, like even in the chat, and just being terrified, like, what? No, don't do that. So what she ended up doing was holding his body. It's probably like one of the old pictures of Strahd carrying the maiden, one of the old like 80s, 90s pictures. But I likened it more to like a Peter Pan kind of situation where they're at the windowsill, and she flutters himself down to the ground. Meanwhile, everybody over here is trying to figure out, what is this, the real Yamil? Is this what's with the head? What's going on? The head's not changing. You know, they were thinking, does the head stay like this? Oh, another thing about this, another callback, little fun thing that happened was that I mentioned that Sky's tattoo. It used to be a feathered serpent, winged serpent, very colorful, very gauche. She loved the colors that were in it. But now it's giant bat wings, because welcome to Barovia. And also, since she's been bitten by Strahd, she has long eye teeth, long fangs. So everybody is kind of suspecting her at this point. And I didn't expect that they were going to latch onto this as much as, you know, I just kind of threw this out there like, oh, I need to add another little gothic level to this. But her wings were giant black bat wings. And everybody was looking at her like, what? And these last for an hour. And we were talking about it, and she's like, do I see this? I'm like, well, that's a great idea. Like, no, you think everything's fine. You think that everything's normal. So everybody's flipping out about that. They're running outside to see what's going on with her and to catch up with the rest of the group. They found Yamil. The group is mostly together at this point, except Arcus is almost dead. He did succeed his death saving throw. It was done privately, so they did get to heal him and bind his wounds and everything else, and he was fine. And the party was finally all back together at that point. And then the rest of the party's looking at Sky very suspiciously, because now not only does she have fangs, but she has these giant bat wings. They've never seen this before. It's amazing the little things you can throw out there just because you think they're cool and you're just on a whim and you think they're a great little touch, then people will just latch onto it. They can miss so much other stuff, but those little things that they latch onto, just go with it. Just please, just go with, do everybody a favor. Go with it. You will have so much more fun. That's my advice for right now. So they get back, and because she's got wings and because her fangs, and I of course just have to throw in there, yeah, her fangs look a little longer right now. And everybody latches onto that. And so Arcus had stolen a goblet from Watertown, like Waffle House. He had stolen that, and his idea is, well, if I fill this up with some water and hold it up to her, does her reflection show in it? And I thought this was great. So then Gabby, Sky's character, immediately comes to me and is like, well, do I see my reflection in it? And I'm like, no, you don't. She's like, do other people see my reflection in it? And, oh, no. What she asked me was, can I make a deception check, and can I fake that I see my reflection in it? And can they see it? So we figured out how everybody was standing. And I can't remember if the rest of the party actually, after that fact, looked into the goblet to see if she saw it. But she definitely looked into it, didn't see a reflection, and lied, just bald-faced lied to everybody like, hey, what's the problem? And they're asking about her wings, and those are new. You want to explain that? And she's like, what? Everything's fine. So we definitely got the role-playing pillar in there. We had a little bit of the combat from before, and then we got into the exploration. They decided to explore some more rooms. I thought they might have gone to this staircase here, which I was hoping they would, but we wanted to cut short because we had to watch some people wanted to watch the debate. I think most people wanted to be murdered by undead instead, and I think the next day everybody decided that, yeah, we should have stayed and been murdered by undead instead, but we had to cut early, so I didn't want to start a new combat or a big new encounter. So I thought they might have gone upstairs to floor 3 where I have some really cool stuff planned. I'll post a picture up there on what's in store for them soon. But what they did do is go into this master bedroom. I don't know if this is actually supposed to be in this bedroom or not. This bedroom's pretty nondescript in the book. It looks close to the other bedroom, so they're testing where they had a smoke dragon come out and attack Yamil and then run away. So they're in this room. There's not much there, and I'm like, you know what? That's kind of a crappy way to leave things. And I know there's more information here that they could find. So I moved around some things, and I had them find part of the journal of Argynvost, the Silver Dragon, the patron of this entire mansion. They've been seeing his busts. They see his portrait above the hearth, and I really wanted to read this. I love reading some of this stuff aloud. This is one of those things where I had, like years ago, planned out the music and how I'm going to pace it and what voice I'm going to use. I think I did screw this up a little bit because I think I used the voice that I had intended to use for Lord Vladimir, Lord Vladimir, whatever his last name is, Hornguard. I was going to use his voice. I accidentally used the voice I had intended to use to him. We'll see if they remember that or not. Easy fix. I just changed the voice a little bit. Or I just make him the reincarnation of Argynvost and make them think it's a silver dragon. Either way, it's all going to be fun. They're not going to know. The players don't know. That's the thing. It can be so nerve-wracking as a DM to try to thread together all of these little webbings. We didn't talk about the giant spiders. That was last time. That was 2 times ago. All the webbings that go into these modules. It doesn't matter because a lot of that stuff the players are never going to see. They're going to see that small window. It's like when you're watching a movie, like a scene in like Lord of the Rings, and you see a small scene that seems to indicate something bigger, but there's not something bigger there because you're just watching it and you're making your own film out of that. I'm not explaining this the best way possible, but I think you get it. So all you need to do is just give a little bit of a nugget there, and then they could run in a completely different direction with it, and they probably will. But for right now, I messed up a voice, is basically what I'm saying. But I got to read this letter. I think it went really well. It's the letter. It's the journal of Argynvost, the Silver Dragon. The Silver Dragon. I read in a voice like this. I think I stole the voice from the beginning of the Blind Guardian album, Nightfall in Middle Earth. The sound of the voice of Morgoth they used in the beginning of there. I had that running in my head. I'm like, this needs to be the voice. It was supposed to be the voice of Vladimir. I'll still use it as the voice of Vladimir. But I had it in my head that was going to be the voice with this music going on. And hopefully it's not too samey when I do it, when he monologues at them. But now they know that that his body won't be laid to rest. They think that he's a source for good. I'm actually kind of curious as to what they're going to say in the session write-up about this letter. I did have to call out to them again, because we hadn't met in about a month. And again, with these long campaigns, I'm not expecting everybody to remember everything. I'm not expecting the notes to be perfect. We use a lot of different note takers in the group. They all send out session reports about what happened. So they have this information. I think Magrathen has a little bit of a hook here because I gave her a little bit. Magrathen and Laura is new to this group, and it's very hard for her to break in. So she was really excited that she had her own thing to do, and it paid off for her. And what I'm trying to give her is a hook to find the head of Argynvost, because it's not going to be where they think it is. They might have the hook that they're going to look in the mausoleum. They might not follow that up. They might decide they're going to try to light the beacon and go to Strahd's castle, go to Castle Ravenloft. They might not. There's a pretty decent chance either way on that. But they have all these hooks now. It was a nice way to end it because I did give them a little backstory because they did have that. Wait, why are we here again? Because again, I don't want them to taking Matt Colville's advice here. I don't want them to get murdered in a haunted house without knowing why they're even there, what their purpose is. So I did have to call out, hey, you remember that there is a sword here, a weapon against evil. I also called this in. I did a little bit of my own stuff here. I didn't use Van Richten or Rictavio for this. I used Trick Tavio, who's actually my bard character Trick that I love using. He's a kind of a flamboyant, arrogant halfling bard. I used him instead, and he was pretending to be Sarek Bloodrune, who was a vampire hunter. He was recently killed by a black dragon at his castle, which was Van Richten's tower from the module. I reskinned it. I made it a 2-tower situation. They tried to go into the forbidden portion of the tower. It triggered a giant black dragon coming down. They started shooting stuff at its butt. It was a whole big thing. But we killed off this NPC. This is the father of Sky's child, and he came to her in a dream when she later became unconscious. This sounds like a soap opera. I've been told that my style is kind of Joss Whedon-y, and I love that, but it sounds there's a lot going on here. So without getting it too confusing, too late, I know. Sky was given these 2 gems. She was told to choose between a black and a white gem stone in a dream with Sarek. Sarek, who had recently just died, holding up his sword, trying to defend himself, his Bloodrune sword, his legacy sword, to fight the forces of evil. He had died by a black dragon's breath weapon, so his body was annihilated by acid. The entire blade of the sword, see what I'm doing here? The entire blade of the sword was destroyed, which set me up perfectly to substitute this in for the sun sword. I like using the sun sword with some contingents because I think it's a really powerful magical item. Same thing with the holy symbol of Ravenkind. So what I like to do is have some other things that are needed to unlock its full potential. So for example, the Tome of Strahd is what I'm going to use in my other game to unlock items' full potential of what they can do against Strahd and the undead. That way, they're not too overpowered too early, and we can keep the sense of drama for a final conflict. I've just seen so many accounts of Strahd being a pushover when the characters get up to a certain level. I don't think that's going to be the case with any of my groups, but I want to weigh that out, and I want to make them feel more awesome. And it also gives them something else to do. They don't just get the stuff, they have to unlock the pieces of the stuff. So Sky needs to find the blade to this sword that her ex-lover and the father of her unborn child willed to her. And that's the thing that they're looking for in Argon Vostholt. So I've combined the two. One of the players, Chris Yamel's character, did remember the reading, which was great. He remembered the reading that Madame Eva gave them about the sword and it being a weapon against evil. So that kind of tied together. That made me feel good that people were, engaging more with the lore, with the story. So much going on here. But I think that's the meat of it. We left it as they got the letter. We left it on a dramatic note. I'm not sure where they're going to go next, but luckily when you're running a pre-made module, that kind of takes a lot of the heavy lifting off me. It cuts down my prep time. So for next time, I'm not sure where they're going to go, but overall this after having a bit of a slog at the beginning and me being really, really nervous, we got right back into the groove. I think it took about 30 minutes, and it was mainly because I think I was expecting, I just played 2 other games and there was combat. There was a lot of different dynamic for those games, and I think I was kind of expecting to jump right back into it, and that's unreasonable to expect. Unless you're setting something up as a DM, you can't expect your party members to do any particular thing. Everybody should know that. You can't expect them to do anything that you have planned or that you would like or that you would have expected. Expect the unexpected. Just looking through my other notes here, see if there's anything else that's going on that I want to mention. Severed heads. Yeah, so severed heads, severed ropes, severed party members. It was a great session, and we should be meeting in 2 weeks, and I can give you guys an update. If you have any questions about this group, about any of the history here, if you want to see another video about any particular aspect of this, as you can tell, I love talking about D&D. I love talking about games when I'm not playing games, because it's like playing D&D when you're not playing D&D. Otherwise, please like, subscribe, comment, ring the bell, sign the book, snuff the candle. Follow me on Twitter at SlightMisplay. What else am I on? Patreon. Hi, Nicole. Thanks for Patreon. Thanks for being my patron. Buy me a Ko-fi. I'm never going to pronounce this right. Buy me a coffee, but Ko-fi. You know what I mean. Anyways, that's all I have for now. I'm running out of steam here, but as you can tell, it's a fun session, and I look forward to telling you about the next one. All right. Thanks, guys, and don't forget, wear a mask, vote, and onward.